Good evening and welcome to the Monday, July 7th, 2025 meeting of the City of Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Honorable Mayor Tack.
Here.
Alderman Novit is absent. Alderman Collins.
Here.
Alderman Notes.
Here.
Alderman Powers.
Here.
Alderman Burt.
Here.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Here.
Alderman Weber.
Here.
Alderman Waltler.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is comments by mayor, and I would like to start by taking a moment to offer my condolences to the Preschlack family in light of the passing of former Mayor John Jack Preschlack. Jack was a tireless champion of the city and its institutions. He was a kind man and a generous man with his time, talents, and treasure. He will be missed and remembered fondly in the halls of the city of Lake Forest. The first agenda item is a resolution of appreciation for retiring building inspector Christine Teresi, and this will be presented by Catherine Cerniak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a great opportunity to recognize one of many unsung city employees who don't seek recognition but work behind the scenes to really make Lake Forest what it is today. So, Chris, whereas Christine M. Teresi has been a dedicated employee of the City of Lake Forest in the Community Development Department since May 17th, 2006, for over 19 years. Whereas Chris will honorably retire today from the City of Lake Forest on July 7th, 2025, to pursue new adventures. And whereas Chris demonstrated her knowledge of construction, her attention to detail, and a passion for learning throughout her time with the department. Whereas Chris took the initiative to continually advance as she moved from an administrative assistant at the front counter of the Laurel Avenue Municipal Services Building to the permit coordinator position, and ultimately she was promoted to the position of building inspector, the first woman in the city's history to hold that position. And whereas Chris took all of her responsibilities very seriously. She was an expert in the nuances of the building and zoning codes, and in particular was extraordinarily attentive to preserving and protecting trees on construction sites. And whereas we know that in her next chapter of life, Chris will not sit idle, she will travel, explore many natural wonders, fix things, spend time with family, and she will continue to preserve memories for many through the amazing photographs she takes. And whereas we wish Chris breathtaking adventures, trees to hug, and many moments of pure relaxation with no plans to review, no deadlines to meet, and no inspections to make. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lake Forest that the Council, on behalf of her colleagues in the Community Development Department, the City Administration, the residents of the community, and all of the contractors she has assisted over the years, hereby expresses its appreciation and gratitude to Christine M. Teresi for a public service faithfully performed. And be it further resolved that this resolution be appropriately inscribed and conveyed to Chris, with a copy to be included in the official minutes of tonight's meeting, July 7th, 2025. Congratulations, Chris.
Would you like to say a few words?
Very few, but I do want to say how grateful I am for all the opportunities I've had and what a wonderful town you have. And I really hope all the residents appreciate our department, many departments, but our department works so hard to help them through the processes and to keep this beautiful town the way it is. I have a long history with this town. I did a lot of construction in this town before I came to this side of the counter. And it was really pretty awesome being able to see both sides and being able to empathize with both sides. And I just hope everybody always remembers that we're all working toward one goal, and that is to keep this the really special town that it is. And I am really grateful for all my coworkers, have been fabulous. So always be nice to them. They work very hard. And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, at this time, can I have a motion to approve the resolution of appreciation for retiring building inspector Christine Teresi?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Come on up. And Chris, if you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, feel free to leave. All right, and that concludes comments by mayor. At this time, we'll move on to comments by city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. I have 3 items under my report tonight. First, we'll begin with our monthly update on the status of the Deer Path Streetscape Improvement Project. And for that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent of Engineering, Byron Coots.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you, Manager Wisha, for the introduction. As stated, I will be giving the monthly update on the construction for both the Deer Path Streetscape Project as well as Bank Lane. We're going to start with the video we do every time. I'll narrate as we go. So picture on Deer Path. Now some electrical work. You can see the pedestrian ramps that they built to maintain access. That was showing some more electrical work. Still on Deer Path. More electrical work for the light poles, the foundations. Now on Bank Lane, looking north, you can see the pedestrian corridor that was created. You can see some residents that are still able to go back and forth. More work on Bank Lane, concrete. Now back on Deer Path. Forming the masonry wall across the street. The concrete base pour for the sidewalk on Bank Lane. More work on Bank Lane. And then finishing up with Deer Path. So for upcoming work for Deer Path, the irrigation work started a few weeks ago. They're continuing installation of that over the next week or so. So all the items that you'll see here, they're kind of sequential. Some of them are tied together where the next one can't start until the previous one is done. So continue with the irrigation, and then the masonry wall, which is just across the street. That foundation has been poured. They're going to continue that over the next week or two. The decorative mainline sidewalk. So on the south side, they're going to, once the irrigation is done, they're going to actually do the decorative sidewalk on the south side. Once that's fully cured and we can actually have pedestrians start walking on it, we'll actually shift back to the north side and then remove the sidewalk at that time. In terms of closures for Western, I know previously we talked about the closure on Western for the crosswalks as well as Oakwood. For Western, there's some storm sewer work we have to do as well as the crosswalks. We're tentatively looking at August 7th to August 24th. We came up with that schedule based off of right after Lake Forest Day when the city's potentially a little quieter, and then trying to finish the work prior to school starting. The August 24th is just a tentative date, if possible, to hopefully be a few days before that. The other closure on Oakwood to do the similar work, basically 2 weeks for removing the crosswalks and pouring the decorative concrete and the bricks. We don't have a schedule quite for that. It'll probably be sometime in September. And when we time that work, there's been some water main repairs that basically we identified during the water main project that are actually south on Oakwood. We're looking to add that to the scope and do those. I think there's 4 or 5 services that need to be repaired, basically switch to a different water main. We'll probably time that with the Oakwood closure. And with all of these closures, we'll notify the community in advance as we've been doing. In terms of schedule, I'd like to report that we're still on schedule for completion in October. So really happy with that so far. In terms of other communication initiatives, so we had an event, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, which are what the pictures are, just out here on the grass next to City Hall was the Bagels and Bulldozers event. So I don't remember exactly how many people we had. There was more people than what you see in the pictures, but very well attended. And we're going to continue that with another event in a couple weeks. And you can tell we like our alliteration, so it'll be the Pause and Pavement on July 17th at 10 a.m. just outside. So please, welcome anyone, both young and of any age, really. So please pass the word for people to attend that. And then now switching to Bank Lane, everything is going well on that project. Also on schedule for completion by the end of October. I will say, I know there was, we were hearing some conversations about it appearing to be slow on both projects. The earlier phases of these type of projects is a lot of subcontractor work. Once we get through that, it'll tend to move a lot quicker. And we're kind of at the point where, especially for Deer Path, we're starting to wrap up the subcontractor work. So on Bank Lane, the majority of the work is during the day. The city council voted for the hybrid version that had some work during the day and then more disruptive work at night. We are still doing that. There'll be some storm sewer work, water main work, some adjustments next week at night. There's also some private utilities. AT&T has to relocate one of their conduits, so that'll be at night starting tomorrow, so probably Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. Once we get through those utility relocations, the general contractor will be able to jump back onto the concrete sidewalk base course, basically the foundation where the bricks will eventually be. And then it'll start moving fairly quickly after that. And with that, I can take any questions.
Alderman Weber.
Thank you so much for the update. I just wanted to clarify, when you spoke of the Western Deer Path closure, are you talking about just the crosswalk, or will the entire intersection be closed north-south?
Yeah, no, that's a good point to clarify. So in order to build those crosswalks and just minimize the length of the disruption, it was basically decided to do all of the crosswalks at once. So by the time you remove all the crosswalks and then pour back concrete and do the rest of the work, it's about 2 weeks, but it'll have to be fully closed to traffic during that time. So there will be, there was a detour route that we previously, notified to the whole community. We are looking at a potential change to that detour route, and if we do change it, we will notify the community of that. But it will be to vehicles as well. It'll be closed for those 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Byron. The second item on my report is an update on the new police station project. As you know, it's been a couple of months since we were last before the city council discussing this project. And during that time, the city's project team has been working closely with the project design firm Cordigan Clark to finalize design plans. So I thought it would be good to hear an update from our Chief of Police, John Burke, on work that's occurred over the last few months and also what the project schedule looks like over the next few months as we look to wrap up the design work. John?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Tech, members of City Council. Like I said, tonight I'd like to give the City Council an update on the progress of the design of the overall building for the future police department. We continue to make steady progress on both the planning and the logistical fronts, and here's some key highlights. As far as the building overview, the overall building design is taking shape. We're just about completed with all the decisions we have to make interior. It reflects the operational needs and functions of a modern police department. The range location has been worked out to include designs for weapons and ammo storage room, a range equipment storage area, and a weapons cleaning area. The training room was also enlarged, pressing towards the front lobby to give us a room that we think maximum capacity. So as it sits in the design right now, we show the place about 120 people if we were to have a lecture type environment, and over 80 if it's tables and chairs type of lecture. We did locate a used generator, which has enough power for our needs. That was located. City approved that purchase at the last city council meeting, which will bring savings to the project as well. We're making plans to bring a natural gas line to the building. This addition will allow for certain replacement of future equipment such as rooftop HVAC units, the range system ventilation, and future hot water systems to be powered by natural gas. This is a really good decision because it removes some of the electrical load from the building. The building as it sits right now is purely electric, so we're looking to offset that by bringing a gas line into the building. We're also working to bring fiber optic line to the building. This will ensure we have high-speed secure communication capabilities for the department. And we also secured quotes for BDAs, bidirectional amplifiers, for each floor of the building. When we enter the building right now, our digital radio is cut out when you hit the elevator. So these small amplifiers will make sure that we have radio connectivity no matter where we are in the building. The interior design security features, in the next couple weeks, we're finalizing decisions regarding furniture layouts, color schemes, floor materials, interior and exterior security camera placement. We've spoken to at least 2 companies for interior interview and interrogation systems, access control systems, and we're looking at the door locks throughout the entire building. The footprint of the planned exterior addition in the back has been marked by orange paint, and this is going to help us prepare for the landscaping design, which is already starting to take place as far as where we want to place trees and shrubs to provide coverage along the back of the building. We have met with and received formal approval from the Conway Park Owners Association regarding both the building's use as a police facility and the planned addition along the back. Last week I met with representatives from the Illinois Department of Corrections. They reviewed our design plans for the lockup facility and the materials which will be used to construct it. They gave us a letter of approval, which we needed from them before we go out to bid the project. We have an upcoming building review board meeting. That's going to take place on Thursday evening. We're going to present our plans for the building, seeking their review and input. That'll be Thursday evening. And then the timeline for the project, we're looking at Cordigan Clark to release the bid packages on August 14th. And we will be coming back to City Council on September 15th to seek approval for the construction project to proceed. And as it stands right now, the budget is pretty much on target as far as the budget. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the project.
Are there questions for the chief? Good job. No question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then my last item for this evening is an update from our Assistant Director of Public Works, Jim Lockefeer, on the city's efforts to identify private residential lead service lines. And I think this is of interest to the council and the broader community. As a reminder to the council and those in attendance tonight, the city's drinking water is clean, safe, and completely lead-free when it leaves the water treatment plant. We do not have any lead present in any of our water supply infrastructure, but we do know that there are still limited amounts of private residential lead service lines. And so I've asked Jim to provide a brief update on those impacted properties and what it means in the context of new Illinois EPA testing requirements. Jim?
Thank you, City Manager Wisha, members of City Council, Mr. Mayor. This is my one slide. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. It is an important discussion, but as City Manager Wisha outlined, it really is a small percentage of Lake Forest properties that have this lead service line. For context, what you see on the screen here, this is the city's lead service line inventory. This was something that was required by the Illinois EPA that we had to prepare, as well as other municipalities in Illinois. This is a requirement. And as you can see on the screen here in Lake Forest, Total services, that's residential and commercial, were just shy of 7,000. 250, all residential, are confirmed lead. And what that represents, again, just for context, 96% of Lake Forest residential homes, no lead. The 250 number represents 4%. And why we also, as City Manager Wisha outlined, wanted to bring this up this evening is recently the IEPA, the Illinois EPA, required testing of those, of 60 households of the 250 that have lead. And with that, we received some results back that might require city staff, the city, to require the broader community. So we thought it would be timely. We don't know that for sure yet. There's potential there where we might have to send a letter to everyone, which from a staff perspective, and one thing we'll be discussing with Illinois EPA, is that we would much rather deal with the 250 households directly versus the broader community, so we will be having that discussion. But in any case, if there is that larger communication requirement about lead, we wanted to be transparent about that this evening. Public Works is working very, very closely with the communications department on that. We're already drafting language to align with this evening to make sure everyone knows that if in fact we do have to more broadly communicate these testing results, where just for context, of the 60 households we sampled, there were approximately 10 homes, it was actually 11 to be exact, that had lead in their service line that exceeded the IEPA's guidance. And because of that, that's where they're triggering maybe some broader communication. And one last thing I wanted to bring up, when we say service line, as City Manager Wisha outlined, the city's water distribution system, water plant, water mains, 170 miles, completely lead-free. The service line is defined from the water main to the property, that specific residential service line. That's 100% privately owned, outlined in city code. So again, just additional context there. More communication probably in the future. Again, working with the Department of Communications on if in fact it is confirmed that the IPA does require us to send out any more notification. We want to work very closely on that language and use our channels to make sure we don't needlessly scare the 96% that have no lead whatsoever in their private service line at all. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Jim, I have a question. So in my days on Public Works, as I recall, we used to treat the water from the plant specifically to address the issue of lead service lines. I don't remember the exact chemical, oxalate something, or
Phosphate,
I'm
yeah.
not mistaken, that provided a coating to the interior of lead lines, and that as long as we were doing that, that would minimize lead exposure. I'm assuming that until this is resolved, we still do that.
Absolutely. And that's actually something that's in the work right now with our water plant engineering consulting firm. It's just something we always kind of take a look at, our chemical makeup of how we treat water, and that is something that has been long-standing in the water. There's been no recent changes. It'll continue. And results of this latest study, I anticipate there won't be any additional changes to that. But you are correct, Mr. Mayor.
And once those lead lines are fully removed, I assume we can discontinue that practice. Is that correct?
Potentially, correct.
Okay. Are there other questions? Yes.
Do the 250 people who have lead know it?
Yes, absolutely. This list was a little bit longer, about, I'd say 8-9 months ago. One of the Illinois EPA steps was, in developing this inventory, we actually had an original list that was closer to 400 properties. And through the city's water and sewer section, we did a lot of lead service line verification appointments where we went into, our city staff went into people's home and verified, and that's where we scrubbed our list and we arrived at that number today. So yes.
Very good. Other questions? Alderman Clemens?
Excuse me. Jim, what is it that the EPA thinks you might have to communicate to the other 96?
It's a lot of educational information about the dangers of lead. We've reached out to some other communities that also were in a similar situation of us to understand what sort of communications at their time they had to share, and that's what we got back. It was a lot of public education materials, but again, from our city staff standpoint, it wouldn't be our desire to send that to everybody via mailing or whatever that may be. We would much rather work directly with the known properties.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report for this evening.
Very good, thank you. The next agenda item is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on non-agenda items. Is there anybody who would like to address the council on non-agenda items this evening? So please come forward and, if you desire, identify yourself.
Thank you, Mayor and Alder chairs, Alder people, thank you. Just a couple of quick positives. I wanted to thank the sanitation for extra help recently and addressing very quick response. I appreciate them very much. Our streets are always beautiful because of their taking care of our droppings here and there. Anyway, I also wanted to thank fire and police. They attended a recent community gathering, and all the children loved the fire trucks, and the fire department was just amazing. I missed the police department, unfortunately, and then our alderman was also there, but she's not here tonight. So I especially appreciate her attendance. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on non-agenda items? Okay, please come up. If desired, state your name.
My name is Sam Halleck. I live on 698 South Waukegan Road. And I heard through the grapevine that they're considering putting a tower by the train station there. Is that true or not? I'm not sure.
That's an agenda item. Are you sure you want to talk about that now?
Are you going to talk about it now?
Well, it's an agenda item for later, and so there will be a public comment section of that.
Okay.
Would you like to address us then?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on non-agenda items? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to committee reports, of which there are none tonight. The next item is items for omnibus vote consideration. I will read all the items. I'll ask the aldermen if there are any items that they would like removed or taken separately. Please let me know once I've finished reading them, and we will take those separately. There are 5 items this evening. The first is approval of the Monday, June 16th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. Second is approval of the fiscal year 26 special event funding for Friends of Lake Forest Parks and Recreation in the amount of $70,000. The third item is consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Building Review Board for 30 Washington Circle, 821 North Moore Road, 772 Oak Knoll Drive, 1030 Oak Grove Lane, 663 Circle Lane, and 375 Tierbath Square. This is first reading, and if desired by the council, final approval. Item 4, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals in support of setback variances at 375 Deerpath Square. First reading, and if desired by the council, final approval. And item 5, consideration of an ordinance approving a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission in support of granting a building scale variance for a pool pavilion at 1460 Lake Road. First reading, and if desired by the council, final approval. Is there any item that members of the council would like removed or taken separate? Okay. Hearing none, then I would ask for a motion to approve the 5 omnibus items as presented.
So approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, this will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Levert.
Aye.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walder.
Aye.
Alderman Clements.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good, thank you. The next item is old business. The first item under this category is presentation of a report on wireless service in the city of Lake Forest. This will be presented by Catherine Cerniak.
From Kimley Horn, the city's consultant, I wanted to just take a step back and review how we got here. Late last year, the Plan Commission held a public hearing over the course of 2 meetings. Both of those meetings were very well attended. They were very lengthy. The outcome of those meetings was the Plan Commission forwarded 2 recommendations to the City Council. One recommendation recommended denial of a proposal to for a code amendment to allow a cell tower at the Telegraph Road West train station. And along with that recommendation, the Plan Commission encouraged the council to have further due diligence done, which I'll talk about in a moment. The second recommendation, which is your next agenda item, was a recommendation from the Plan Commission in support of amending the code to allow a tower, a freestanding tower, at the city's compost center, where we already have 2 providers on the existing water tower. In April of this year, after the city went out 3 times, I believe, with a request for proposal, the City Council authorized the city manager to engage Kimley Horn, a national engineering firm, to conduct an analysis of wireless coverage in Lake Forest. During the request for proposal time period, we received many proposals from tower building companies, from wireless carriers to do that work for us. We were sensitive to not engage any of those companies, but instead looked for an engineering firm with national expertise. The consultant's charge, upon your approval in November, was to analyze service throughout the community. And Mr. Parrish will speak to that in a few moments. If there was a deficiency found in coverage, to identify options that the city might consider to help encourage companies to invest. Companies aren't going to invest in Lake Forest or in infrastructure unless there's a benefit to them. It is a business decision. And finally, to look at what the city can do, what role the city can play to encourage, facilitate improved cell service, wireless service throughout the community. So let me speak for a moment before I introduce Mr. Parrish. Kimley Horn, again, as I said, is a national engineering firm. They, like many large engineering firms, have expertise in many areas. If I looked at the list, and it started with aviation and ended with water management. And there were more than 20 other areas of specialties that the firm had expertise in. Telecommunications is one of those areas. And the role that Kimley Horn can play is to be a partner. And the role that Kimley Horn representatives have played is to be a partner with municipalities, with tower builders, with wireless carriers to provide options to facilitate improved wireless service in communities. Mr. Parrish did not work alone. As I said, this is one section of Kimley Horn. And let me just take a moment. There may have been more of his colleagues involved, but Mr. Parrish has had 14 years of diverse experience. Again, he has worked with municipalities, wireless carriers, tower builders. He's managed projects nationwide and been successful in improving service using a variety of technologies. You heard a few moments ago Christine Teresi talk about how she had worked in the construction industry. And by working in the construction industry, she was better able to move to the other side of that industry and really was an expert inspector who knew how to get things done, and importantly, times that certain things couldn't be done. So it's not unusual for for people to have expertise on both sides of the aisle. Other staff in this area who joined Mr. Parrish, Jamie Matthew, who is a licensed engineer, a professional engineer with more than 5 years of experience in the telecom industry, experience in providing engineering and site acquisition services to a variety of projects. And it is noted that Jamie has made a significant impact on expanding and improving telecom infrastructure. And the final person I wanted to mention was Jason Riggs, who has more than 20 years of experience doing consulting services with Kimley Horn. And he directly performs search ring analysis. So the group we had working on this, and again, there may have been more, has expertise, and they are an independent. They are not beholding, they are not getting paid by any carrier or any tower builder, but instead working as one of hundreds of employees for Kimley Horn, a recognized and highly professional engineering firm. And with that, I will introduce Adam Parrish.
Thank you. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Kathy. So like I said, my name is Adam Parrish. I come from with about 14 years of experience at Kimley Horn, mostly in telecom. The last 8 years I've been in A&E, engineering design. Before that, I was in construction, so I've also done both sides of the table and understand kind of what goes into like creating a network. So like we mentioned, the scope of work for this was to basically review the telecom service for the city of Lake Forest. If there's an issue, if there's a gap, kind of propose an idea. But just to be clear, I don't represent a carrier, I don't represent a tower owner, simply pointing out the process that we went through to come to this, showing you what we see as far as the telecom service for Lake Forest. So obviously we're gonna go through a summary. I'll show you the coverage maps, kind of what that entails, what goes along with that, and how that's based. Some real estate option examples are something that we can discuss as well too, and a site type that you can put with those real estate options. We could go into health and safety, but we can definitely save that for the end. So we put a couple months worth of work into this, and you're never gonna have a city that's totally covered. You know, the best coverage in every spot, in every corner of the city. So our research, showing the coverage maps that you go on to in the next page, has identified that there's a need for improved cell service near the area of West Everett Road and Waukegan Road. So just to give you an idea, you can't always trust the bars on your phone to tell you how much service you're getting. I've had 5 bars, it doesn't work. So what we do, and you're welcome to do this as well too, is that it's based off of DBMs. So the farther away you get from 0, the worse service you're gonna have. So for the area that's surrounding Everett Road, Waukegan Road, we have coverage maps. We've also done drive testing to test the power and range that they have for the telecom service. It's 100 to 120 dBm. It's usually poor to no recognized signal for what you're gonna see. So the service gap is everybody. It's Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T. The bigger issue with this as well too is it's much like having traffic on a 4-lane highway and taking that traffic on putting on a 2-lane highway is kind of what's happening in this situation. So the lack of service you have in that area is straining the entire network and taking away from the other sites. So one recommendation you can take and run with this if you'd like is to, if you do move forward with someone and build a tower, increase the network, go back to take another look at these coverage maps just to see how it's affected everything in the other sites and existing infrastructure that you have in place. So I don't know if you can read that, but the lighter the color, the closer we are to 100, 120 WBMs for the area. So you can see the existing infrastructure, obviously you're gonna have a strong signal because it's the darker color, but the area that I've circled is the one that we pointed out for that intersection. It's obviously surrounded by white areas, so it's gonna be 120. For what we saw was usually 115 to 120 WBM for that area. So that's dropped calls. And that not only affects you, it affects emergency services, it affects businesses, everything that goes into that as well too. Here's the AT&T existing infrastructure. Not as bad, but that area that I've circled with the intersection as well too, obviously showing a much lighter color. So you're in the 100, 115 area for the power of that network that you have in that spot. So as you can see, there's existing infrastructure, there's good service around it. So there are some spots. T-Mobile is more of the same. So if you look, it's the lightest color purple that you have in that area that's circled just to show. So I can't use the pointer, or maybe I should. But right here. So just to give you an idea. So if you do decide to move forward with someone, kind of develop that relationship, build up a network and increase to it, it should help the other parts of the network as well too. So the search ring from the previous pages that I had, the most efficient way to address this gap is basically going after existing landowners that are interested in having a tower on their areas. This area has plenty of options for you. You also need the need, which obviously you pointed out, there is a need in that area as far as cell phone signal and things of that nature. So we did drive-bys for a lot of these parking lots. If you're gonna get ground space for a telecom tower, you're probably gonna need about 50 by 50. They can get creative, make it in a certain way, but that's probably about 15, 18 parking spots. And when we spot check these on average, they're about between 90 and 110 parking spots that were open in some of these areas too. So there's room there. There's schools, churches, banks, restaurants, shopping markets, like all kinds of places that we see towers, in the back of the area, and they're willing to take and charge rent for. So what kind of towers would fit best? There's lattice towers and guide towers. It's obviously a super developed area that you have around that scene. Those two types of towers would definitely be able to help you with your service. But the thing is, they take up way too much space. They're mostly done in rural areas where they're covering highways and things of that nature. So we propose using a monopole, I'll show you on the second one as well too. So monopoles tend to be 30 to 200 feet. If you're gonna go this route and have several carriers on this tower, you're probably gonna go to at least 150 feet is what it's gonna need. So I would recommend that as well too for the flagpole tower that is in the next one. So it's more of just a preference on what you see as appealing to what you're looking for the areas that you have, and trying to get coverage for. A lot of communities like these kind of stealth towers a lot more than the traditional monopole or lattice or anything like that. They work just the same. So they can take multiple carriers, but they are going to be in the range of 150 feet tall. So the big thing, how can the city help? And Kathy touched on a lot of this as well too. So to attack the need that's in the area, you are going to need to make some changes to the zoning and the ordinances, especially for the 4th Ward, to add a location there. So Lake Forest is also permitted to use 300 square feet of ground space for telecom towers. I would recommend going up to 2,500 square feet. That's going to handle basically probably 2 carriers for that space is what you're going to need. And they can get creative. They can go 10 feet wide and 15 feet or 50 feet long, something like that. Like that's a bad example, but you know what I mean. So they can kind of move things around to make it fit better. Our conclusion that we have for this, there's an existing need for a tower, but you all need to partner with a carrier or a tower owner to build that tower, oversee the construction, kind of make sure it's compliant with FCC and other entities, locally as well too. But that is probably your next step that you're going to need to take. So they can negotiate do leasing, zoning, and permitting for an existing landlord in that area and kind of come up with their own search ring, which I don't think is going to look much different than that, but that's probably the next best step for you all as well too. Any questions?
How high is 150 feet in terms of if it were
15 stories, probably.
What's that?
About 15 stories high.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for the presentation. You showed an image of a flagpole tower that actually had a flag on it. Is that a common practice for aesthetic purposes?
Aesthetic purposes, yes. I haven't seen it a lot, but it can be done. Okay. That's why I chose that image, because I think it's better.
Thank you.
Alderman Oates, yes.
Again, very helpful presentation. I don't think it's telling us anything, and I think we all expected the findings that your conclusions came to. I don't know if you are able to speak to, or whether Kathy can speak to the height of the other cell towers around town.
I did have those, but I only have their locations right now. So I don't have that.
We have the maximum height of a tower permitted in Lake Forest is 160 feet. And I believe the towers at the hospital achieve that height, 150, 160. I believe the tower at Woodlands Academy is 110 feet.
Thank you, Kathy.
And some of those are co-locations too, so they have multiple carriers on them. So it decreases the amount of towers for the air.
Okay. Are there other questions? Alderman Walther?
One of the things that struck me when I looked at your color-coded maps was how quickly the signal dissipates from the tower location, outwards, right? It goes from dark pink or dark blue to a lighter pink or a lighter, lighter blue, dark blue to lighter blue. Anyways, it dissipates rather quickly. Is there a rule of thumb as to what radius you would expect the dark area to be, and then the middle color and
There's
the very light?
so many variables, from people to busy times when people are there, to the height of the tower, to where you are on the tower. Because obviously, if you build a tower and you want 3 carriers on it, the carriers are going to fight over who gets to be on top. Like that's the ideal place to be to get the most coverage. But it just depends on all those variables.
All right, thank you.
I noticed there was, in addition to the area of focus at Waukegan Road, also a significant deficit along the lakefront. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how would that be addressed by locating a tower? Would a tower located at the beach location provide substantial improvement in that area?
Well, sure. But I think step one would be to add to the network, so it's not pulling from the existing infrastructure that you have, and see kind of how that affects things, just to keep the number of towers down if possible.
Sure.
Obviously, the tower is going to give you better service.
Okay. Are there other questions, comments? Okay.
Well, excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
I do. So you used the term add to the network. Can you elaborate on what you mean by when you say add to the network?
Sure. It's kind of like the example that I used with having the traffic of a 4-lane highway on a 2-lane highway.
Okay.
Adding to a tower is going to add to the network. That's not going to pull, the resources that are in the northeast from the southwest. You know what I mean? So like the people in that location have to go to a tower. You know what I'm saying? So like that's kind of where they're going to have to find a tower. If there's another tower there, they can use that kind of equipment as part of the infrastructure of the network.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Catherine?
Before you move on, I just wanted to review what you're being asked to consider tonight and what you're not being asked to consider tonight. You are not being asked to make a determination on whether there will be a cell tower at any location in the vicinity of Everett and Waukegan Road. What you are being asked to consider is accept the report, acknowledge a deficiency in service, particularly in the area of Everett and Waukegan, recognizing that improvement in that area could have a future benefit and could result in the coverage maps, would result in the coverage maps changing, and then consider whether you want to direct the Plan Commission to reconsider the code amendment that was presented to them last fall and was forwarded to you with a recommendation to not amend the code. So those are just some options for you to consider. Again, you are not being asked to make any specific determination of whether or not there will be a tower, what the location would be, what type of tower it would be, or the height. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. At this time, we're going to take questions from the audience. And as we get into this, I'd like to make a couple points. Number one, this is not a question and answer session. If you have a comment to make, you please make it in 3 minutes. Once we reach 3 minutes, we'll ask you to wrap it up in the next 15 seconds or so that other people have a chance to talk. If you hear somebody else make the point you want to make, feel free to get up and simply say, I support what's already been said. I don't think we need to hear the exact same point repeatedly. It doesn't really add to the conversation. The other thing that I would also ask people to consider is the fact that discussion of the health and safety issues related to this are really not a matter for us to discuss or consider this evening. So I would like you to keep your comments to the issues in front of us today. I have a list of people who've asked to speak, so I'll just go through them one by one. And please, when you come to the dais, state your name and your address. And if you have applicable expertise in the area, I would like it if you would declare that so that we understand where you're coming from. The first person is Joe Weiss. You did.
So I'm Joe Weiss, 1360 Middle Fork Drive. Good evening, Mayor Tack and members of the council. I'm here to express my personal strong support for the plan to add additional cell phone towers here in Lake Forest. Reliable cell service is no longer a convenience. It's essential. Too many parts of our city still suffer from dropped calls and dead zones, and the consequences are real. Yeah, I live on the west side, where cell service is awful and I have dropped calls every day. But a friend of mine who lives on the east side, near the lake, and he has a disabled father, when they call 911, paramedics have actually been delayed multiple times responding to their home because poor cell signal service interfered with their GPS. In an emergency, every second counts, and we can't let bad coverage stand in the way of life-saving care. Improving cell service benefits everyone, families, seniors, businesses, and first responders. It keeps us connected, safe, and competitive. And we're not reinventing the wheel here. Many communities, including those along the North Shore, already have cell phone towers in public spaces, metro stations as an example, though I know you're not voting on that tonight. Practical solutions that blend into surroundings while delivering much needed service. You saw the picture of the flagpole. If you're worried about the look of the towers, I'd point you to not too far from here in Gurnee, where there's a cell tower at Hunt Club and Stearns School Roads that's disguised so well as a tree that I've driven by it for years and didn't realize it was a tree until recently. So there are ways of making something that people think would be unsightly much more sightly. This plan is thoughtful, timely, and necessary. We need to bring our city up to speed with the needs of today and be ready for tomorrow. I read the room here, so I know I'm probably outnumbered in the number of people who will speak before you on this issue, and there's some people who are my friends on the other side of the issue. I hope they're still my friends after tonight. But I urge you guys the council, to consider the totality of the whole city. Mayor, at the beginning of the meeting, you recognized the passing of former Mayor Preschlack. During his term many years ago as mayor, the city had an opportunity to bring Costco to this city, and Mayor Preschlack championed that. Unfortunately, when his term ended, his successors at the time received a lot of public comment at meetings like these, packed rooms, against it, and that Costco ended up moving on the other side of the tollway to Mattawa and costing the city millions of dollars in tax revenue. And while this is not exactly an apples-to-apples comparison, I urge you to think about the whole city and everyone in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next is Nancy Mantenband, I believe. I apologize if I got it wrong.
Good evening to you all. My name is Nancy Mantenband. You got it right. I'll be very brief because really what I wanted to say is already been said, especially by that gentleman who just spoke. I live at 900 Gloucester Crossing, which is in the Woodland Creek Manor development, right behind the Sunset, and everyone knows where the Sunset is. So the service is just terrible. I can just say that missed calls, drop calls. I try to make a call, nothing. And it's more than an inconvenience. He's right. It's a safety issue. Communication is so important. I don't need to go into all the problems people have if they can't get a hold of family members or emergency services or anyone. And I'll just testify that it's so needed, so needed. So I really, really hope that we get a cell tower in our area. And that's about all I have to say, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. The next is Sandy Carson.
I would like to withdraw my request to speak, but I would like to state that I agree with the two previous speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Struggling with this one. Dennis Menzeman?
That's pretty good.
I'm a doctor, and this is bad handwriting.
I'm Dennis Mulmans.
Oh, okay.
I live at 1100 Sir William Lane in Lake Forest, about 2 blocks from where the past speaker lives. I have no problem with cell service, and I'm literally 5 minutes from the corner of Everett and whatever the street is we're worried about. But I have a question for Mr. Parrish. This technology, that we're in 5G now, right?
Excuse me, sir?
6G is going to be when?
Sir, as I mentioned before, this isn't the question and answer.
Okay, I guess I would ask the city council to direct the consultant to address the future, not the past. He's addressing today's technology. This is moving much faster than you can even imagine. And to make a capital expenditure, even if somebody else is making it, that could be an eyesore to the city, doesn't make sense if we're going to be obsolete in 3 to 5 years. The second point I'd like to make, and this is to the city council, the notice of this meeting was extremely short. It's after a holiday weekend. My guess is a lot more people would be here had there been ample notice about this meeting. My wife called the city council sleazy because of this lack of notice and the fact that this appears to be railroading through a change to long-term impact to the city.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, real quick, I know you've asked not to respond, but I do think it's important to note that the city, in an attempt to communicate that this issue was up for discussion, did include notice in several of the last e-news publications that we send out to the community, at least the last 2, that has about 12,000 subscribers and is our main communication platform. We did include notice of this topic in there.
Okay, noted. The next is Ford Campbell III.
My name is Ford Campbell. I've lived here with my family for 38 years, so I'm a newbie. We're currently at 105 East Laurel, but we began first at Villa Turicum, then over to Waveland, and now I'm in the world of condominiums. This has been a small, wonderful city to us for 38 years. I don't think of it as being the east side or the west side, but basically, going back to the Motorola brick and to the current brand new Apple phone in 5G, 6G, or whatever G it is, I don't know. I can't even get anything downloaded at the train station or Market Square. If you're at CVS or Walgreens, same thing. So whether it be east side or west side, and I know, God bless us all, There's a lot of the mentality of not in my backyard, but I'm currently president of the board. There's 21 units in our building. We didn't take a formal vote. I could be getting in trouble here, but I think I can make a reasonable statement. If you need to put coverage, we've got a berm in the back of our building. We've got a 3-story building that I don't know if it structurally can take another how many feet up into the sky, but we'd be glad to entertain anything, including our backyard or our roof, that might possibly improve or functionally create a functional cellular system. When I've talked to old clients in the working days, whether it be AT&T, Verizon, what was it, Xfinity, I don't know what they call it, they laugh when you go in there and you say, gee, you know, I want to get a new phone, I want to get coverage or whatever. And they say, where are you? Lake Forest. And they just sort of stand there and laugh at you because it's a common problem. So I do thank you for the great work you do, whether it be west side, east side, north or south. I am fully supportive of what I've heard. And I think the one comment the gentleman made as far as state of the art today, it's a fast world. Not all good, but basically, yeah, part of it, where will it be in 3 to 5 years? So we're not getting just a tower for the sake of a tower and not the current kind of technology that we need. So thank you for the great work you do. As I say, 38 years have been wonderful, and we hope for a few more, so keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Next up is Haley Cropper.
My name is Haley Cropper. I'm at 1035 Sir William Lane, just a few hundred feet from the original proposed location of the West Side train station. I also do not have any cellular problems with Verizon. We actually can go all the way into my basement and have no issues with it. So it does vary. And as you can see from the maps that were shown by Mr. Parrish, there are many more areas in Lake Forest that are having problems as well. So when we first discussed hearing about this consultant that was brought up at the November meeting, several of the plan commissioners were concerned about Lake Forest as a whole. And instead of piecemealing something together and throwing a tower up for one area, it was suggested we look at it, since all these towers and small cell technologies work together, that they do an overall plan to see what we can do so we don't have to go back. I think it was Commissioner Nearing who said, once we do this, we have to revisit this again. And I do believe Ms. Sersniak said, possibly, she doesn't know. So instead of avoid doing that, you looked at a map, there are numerous areas, as you've heard from other residents. Why are we focusing on just the Fourth Ward? I just can't really wrap my head around it. Somebody asked about, Mayor Tack, I believe it was you, said, what about the beach area? But he said, Mr. Parrish said, well, let's co-locate on the east side before we put another tower up. Well, we have on Riverwoods Road, less than 2 miles from the train station, which unfortunately it's never shown on the maps because it's outside the city limits. There's at least 3, possibly 4 monopoles there. Do we ever look at what we can use off of those towers as small cell DAS technology from that? I don't know if that's an option. If we do approve the compost center site, what will that add to our wireless availability to where we can then look at what's coming off of those towers and how can we work with those in a smaller cell technology? Why are we rushing to put up towers without a plan? So when I was researching this, one thing I found interesting was several towns have telecom master plans, and it's a comprehensive long-range planning document that guides a municipality's policies, strategies, infrastructure needs, and regulatory frameworks for telecommunications services. It's designed to ensure reliable, equitable, and aesthetically appropriate wireless coverage while balancing technological advancement with community values, land use, and public input. So tonight I ask you to not accept this proposal and go back and find a master plan for all of Lake Forest to address the needs as a whole, so we're not piecemealing and putting towers up when they might not be necessary. I had a very nice time talking to Mr. Wisha outside of one of the events, literally in front of City Hall. It was one of the construction events, and my daughter was at Rob Orthodontics, and I was trying to tell her that I'll be there in just a minute. and I could not get through. So that is all I want to say. Even in front of the city hall, I could not get through to Rob Orthodontics across the street. So there is a larger problem here. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right. The next is Antoinette Hulada.
Hello, my name is Antoinette Hulada, and I live at 740 Jennifer Court. A lot of what Haley had said, I was sort of going to discuss. I just wanted to highlight that at the Compost Center currently, I believe it's up for a vote tonight to add that to the overlay district. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think that that would be a great idea. It was sort of looked at as not an option to satisfy our wireless service problems in our community. But as the gentleman, Mr. Parrish, had just said, that we're pulling a lot from the east side or the northeast side. So if we're pulling from the east side or northeast side, I think a great solution would be to put a tower just a mile north of this particular intersection. And I think that that would solve a lot of issues, and that we would be pulling from there and the Riverwoods. And I think that we would notice a big difference without putting a 150-foot tower structure right in our city center or near elementary schools or near other residences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have in terms of people who provided a request. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on this matter? No commentary from the audience. If you'd like to speak, come on up and speak.
Yeah, my name is Sam Halleck. I live on 698 South Waukegan Road. I have AT&T internet, and it's perfect. I don't have a problem with it. I was wondering, something like that, a tower like that, would that hurt our property value? And another thing, health-wise, is that I'm not a doctor. My son is a doctor. I'm not. Is there any emission of any kind from that tower? I don't know. And I want to thank you guys for doing a fine job. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to come up and address the council?
I'll go very quick, but I'm Tom Bohack at 1311 Fiore, so right behind Everett Elementary, there in the southwest quadrant. Just two very quick points, one substantive, one procedural. On the substantive, I just think it may be good. There are plans for Settlers Square area, really focused on aesthetics and building that up. It may be good to look back at that, see what prior iterations have looked to bring to that area. I mean, a 15-story tower would currently dwarf everything in that immediate vicinity and really be seen, all around. And then the procedural point, I know we saw the police station demos here earlier. It looked amazing. Part of that was a task force that the city council put together, including folks from city staff, residents, impacted parties. I know we're considering sending something back to the Plan Commission, but that may be an alternative procedural step that could get more buy-in and just more voices in the room. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Annie Parmasek, and I live at 1279 Cager Lane, and I'm just stating that I strongly agree with Antoinette. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello?
I'm Katie May. I'm a resident in the 4th Ward. I'm here tonight not just to raise a single ethics concern, but to address a deeper pattern, one that erodes transparency and trust in how decisions are made in Lake Forest. On July 5th, I filed a formal ethics complaint about the wireless infrastructure review, specifically the presentation of Mr. Adam Parrish as an independent consultant. And Adam, nothing against you. I'm sure you're a really great guy, but I just wanted to continue with my presentation. In reality, Mr. Parrish serves on the board of Illinois State Wireless Association. It's an advocacy group that actively promotes cell tower expansion, and taken directly off the website, the first fact on their facts page, and I quote, to promote the wireless industry. That's not neutrality, that's a different industry affiliation, and it was never disclosed. Even more troubling, this presentation occurred in the same meeting packet that opens with the city's decision-making parameters, which commit to community trust, transparency, and involvement. By omitting Mr. Parrish's affiliation while labeling him independent, the city violated the very principles it claims to uphold. When I raised this concern, I was told the ethics code doesn't apply to consultants. That's true only because the city intentionally amended its ethics ordinance in 2019 to exclude third-party vendors from oversight. That leaves the public without protection when outside advisors shape policy. Lake Forest taxpayers paid nearly $25,000 to Kimley Horn for this report. Yet, unlike Lake County or other municipalities, we have no vendor disclosure process to screen for potential conflicts before awarding contracts, and that must change. To make matters worse, ethics complaints are reviewed by the PCA committee, which is made up entirely of city council members. The same officials who approved the consultant are tasked with evaluating the complaint. How can a committee investigate themselves? So tonight, I respectfully request, and most importantly, a formal public disclosure of Mr. Parrish's affiliation and his recusal from further involvement, his entire report thrown out, and to hire a truly independent person. To be clear, I am not here to stop technology or progress. I am here to ask that it be guided by a truly unbiased and transparent process. And I also wanted to point out that Kathy, on your notes, has that that the ILSWA is an organization that promotes public policy, but there is no language on their website that suggests that. In fact, what the language suggests on their website is it's a nonprofit professional association built to give the Illinois wireless industry a unified local identity. Its mission is to promote the wireless industry and raise awareness of its importance in Illinois, to work to influence government on behalf of wireless carriers, towers companies, site acquisition firms, law firms, contractors, engineering, and environmental companies. So please just do your own research on that. Second, a revision of the ethics code to include outside consultants and a restructured PCA committee with at least one independent non-elected community member. We want to protect what makes Lake Forest special, its charm, its beauty, and its integrity. That includes not just how the streets look, but how our city government runs. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I just sort of like to make a point. I appreciate your input. However, there's numerous things that you mentioned that I believe are factually inaccurate. Would the city manager or the city attorney like to address Ms. May's commentary, please?
So I can address a couple of the issues. First, with respect to the ethics ordinance, and I was involved in that amendment in significant amount of work that the legal committee and the city council did on amending the ethics ordinance. And the ethics ordinance never applied to vendors. In fact, ethics ordinances apply to the conduct, activities, and relationships of government officials and employees. That's true in every government entity, state, and the local governments. The intention is being that decisions made by the city are not hindered by relationships or financial interests that you have with a vendor, not the relationship that an outside vendor may have that is unrelated to the city. So the ordinance never.
Excuse me, Miss May, this isn't a question and answer. No, excuse me.
I'm very familiar with.
Let us respond.
Yeah.
Ms. May, you don't run the city council meeting. Okay, well, please be quiet and allow our staff to respond because we're addressing factual inaccuracies. That's the only reason we're responding at all.
So I'm very familiar with the previous ordinance. Again, I worked on the amendments that were brought to the city council, and I looked at the ordinance again today when when these allegations were made, and reread the previous ordinance, and it did not apply to vendors. So I'm not sure where that factual disconnect is, but it's very clear that there were no changes, intentional or otherwise, to take out any kind of conflict or disclosure requirements of a vendor, because those never existed. They didn't exist before, and they don't exist now. A couple of other things on the asking for a recusal. Just, I think that all of you understand that a recusal is something that a decision maker would do. So if, let's say, one of you had a relationship with the consultant or vendor, a financial relationship, you would recuse yourself, again, because ethics apply to the government officials or employees. And recusal is an actual not participating in a decision. It's not about a vendor recusing. There's really no process for a vendor to recuse themselves, even if they were subject to the ordinance, which they are not. I think, as for a public disclosure of the relationship, I think clearly that was just made, so that would be part of the record. But again, those outside affiliations, you can take those into consideration when you're considering the value of the report, but they are not, it's simply not an ethics or a conflicts of interest situation.
Okay. I thank you for that clarification. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Please.
Hi there, my name is Julia Saran. I live at 1094 Arcady Drive, and I just really briefly want to say that I'm in support of everyone tonight who's opposed to this. And I think that by neglecting to discuss the health and safety of this issue, it's really shameful and disappointing.
May I have some commentary on the issue of health and safety as it relates to telecom and what we are allowed to consider when we do our deliberations on these matters?
Yes, and I know this comes up sometimes at the Plan Commission during the public hearing process. There's usually some testimony about emissions and the health and safety issues. The city is actually preempted by federal law, and that means that you're prohibited by federal law from basing a decision on a tower or antennas because of emissions and health, potential health impacts, because the federal government has sole authority over those emissions. They set the standards, they regulate them, they enforce them. So long as a tower, antenna, any other facilities meet the federal guidelines, the city cannot regulate based on health and safety. And there are numerous cases that have struck down city decisions, municipal decisions across the country where health, safety, and emissions have been a factor in their decision.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Is there anyone else that would like to address?
Thank you. My name is Diane Casuto. I live at 1200 Wild Rose Lane. Mr. Mayor, I would just like to point out, as you have noted, this is not a question and answer session here in City Council, which I fully understand, but considering that we only have 3 minutes, many of us don't fully understand the technology. I'd like to request that maybe you consider holding something like a town hall meeting, inviting Mr. Parrish back, where we can in fact ask him some really specific questions about the technology and other issues that were raised here. And I would also like to say I agree with Haley Cropper and Antoinette. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Melissa Schenberg, 1111 Sir William Lane. I agree with Haley. I agree with Antoinette, everyone that's opposed to this. And I understand also that this is not a question and answer, but health and safety is a concern. It should be a concern. And you guys were able to reiterate health and safety information, but we cannot bring that up ourselves. I think that's a problem. I fully support the police, the fire department. They've come to our house a couple times. I grew up on Old Mill. I've never had an issue getting a hold of them to come to my house. So while I love the police and fire department, I also care about my own safety, the safety of the people living around us. It should be a concern. And I think there's a problem that health and safety was not discussed at all. Like, think about that. All the news is health and safety, but here talking about a cell tower, we can't talk about health and safety. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes?
My name is Debbie Saran, and I live at 1355 Estate Lane East. And I apologize for coming late, so I may have missed some of the comments regarding what I'm about to say. But number one, according to experts, in about 5 years, possibly less, all of these towers will become obsolete because everything is going to be coordinated through satellites. My question on that is, if this is the way of the future and this is changing every day, why are we in such a rush to build a tower when it could become obsolete just a couple years after it's built? I understand the height is between 145 and 160 feet, the height of roughly a 14 to 16 story building. For context, the hospital is 35 feet. So we're talking about 3 hospitals, the height of 3 hospitals in a neighborhood, because that's what it is. It's maybe a train station, but it's a neighborhood as well. Many of these studies regarding health and safety, and I understand, Julie, that you cannot use that because the FCC maintains control over all these decisions, which also should be addressed, but that is not a conversation for tonight. Many of these studies are old. We are not seeing the most current studies on health and safety. In fact, there are a lot of court cases that are going on across the country right now having to do with cell towers near schools and homes and the amount of cancers and diabetes and other autoimmune diseases that are being felt by the residents and the schools and the communities. Just in Libertyville, I've heard that 3 children, and I don't know if this is cell tower related, but I'm just saying there are 3 children in one school that have come down with glioblastoma. You have to start wondering what is causing all of this. And again, Julie, I know we are not allowed to make a judgment on that basis, but it is here to stay. Finally, if we're talking about building an antenna at the compost center, which I missed, but I think I heard that and I think I read that, why don't we see if that compost center antenna solves some of these issues before we go into building a tower that's as tall as we're talking about here? Also, there are 2 schools within a very close proximity, not to mention all the houses, but the schools really concern me because children's brains develop at great speed in the ages of elementary school students, and I don't want them to be affected by some of these issues. And by the way, I don't have a huge problem with my cell service either, and I'm even farther west than Sir William, than Antonetta and Haley. So, and Katie, I'm farther west than that. So maybe I am picking up something from the Riverwoods towers, which makes me think, should we talk to the people? There are 4 towers, maybe 5, on that site. Is that something that we should consider before we go ahead and build this tower? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excuse me, you've had your 3 minutes. That's what everybody's getting. Otherwise, I have to give everybody else. Please just observe the rules, Ms. May.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, all of us came here last fall to discuss the same issue. We all agree that cell phone tower is a problem in Lake Forest. The recommended was to do a study in the whole city to see how we can address the problem of the whole city. And I don't know how, but we ended up with the same old problem, putting a huge cell phone tower in the middle of our neighborhood, which doesn't make any sense for all of us. So what kind of study was this new study? Because the study that was supposed to be done was the one that looking for an alternative, not the same one. Because the last problem was the same thing. So where is the study with a new solution, with something else? This is Lake Forest.
Thank you.
My name is Jane Peglini. I live at 1152 Lynette, which is about 3 blocks down from the corner of Everett and Waukegan. Cell service is horrible. I think that this study kind of showed what everybody was saying, that the need is there. I don't understand why we would just ignore that. I think that we've addressed and identified a problem, and I think we need to find a solution for that. I am in favor of adding some cell service somehow, just to make it work in my neighborhood. It's very frustrating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there others? Miss May, please.
You've also put your lawyer after me, which you haven't done to anyone else. I feel very targeted, and I want to be a part of this public discussion.
Ms. May, you are a part of the public discussion. You were provided with 3 minutes, the same as everybody else attending. The lawyer was included not to target you, but to clarify some issues that were presented incorrectly. And the public needs to know that when they hear things, that what's opinion and what's fact, and in this case, there were some factual problems. So please have a seat, allow other people to talk. Other people have opinions. Ms. May, I'm not debating with you. Please have a seat. Okay.
I can't be a part of a city that's so closed-minded and clearly not very, demographically appropriate.
Hi, my name is Sydney Bartolotta. I live at 1056 Sir William Lane. I have T-Mobile and I have no issues with service. I also just want to show support of all the wonderful points of people opposing. And I was a little confused by the presentation as well, because leaving the last meeting, I thought we were indeed looking at not only other locations, but just other options for cell tower sizes. And it didn't seem like any of that was researched. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Are there others that would like to comment? Okay, it appears we've come to the end of public comment on this particular issue. So at this time, I would like to ask the council to consider a motion to accept the report as presented by Kimley Horn and acknowledge the deficiency in wireless service coverage in the 4th Ward, specifically in the vicinity of Waukegan and Everett Roads, and direct the Plan Commission to reconsider a code amendment identifying one or more permitted locations for a telecommunications monopole or stealth tower within the search ring identified in the report, with the full understanding that subsequent to any amendment, any proposal coming forward would be required to demonstrate completion of all required studies and compliance with all applicable regulations. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, this will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Due to my glare,
I am
abstaining.
Thank you. Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walder.
Aye.
Alderman Clements.
Aye.
6 yay, 1 abstention. Motion carried.
Very good, thank you. The next item under old business is consideration of a recommendation from the Plan Commission of an amendment to Section 159.154, Personal Wireless Service Facilities Overlay District of the City Code as it pertains to the city's compost center at 1381 Kennedy Road, and this will again be presented by Catherine Cerniak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is the second recommendation that came to you from the Plan Commission late last year. The recommendation is in support of amending the code to add a permitted tower location. I think it's important to note that the code provisions relating to telecommunication towers, antennas, co-location are very detailed and in fact serve as the city's master plan for cell tower service build-out. It's certainly appropriate, as was noted, technology changes. It's certainly appropriate to revisit those code provisions from time to time, as has been done since it was first established in the code in 1999. But that is a master plan. It speaks to locations. It speaks to heights, different heights in different locations. It speaks to whether permitted areas are for a new tower or for antennas on a rooftop. It also importantly speaks to, if the technology changes, the burden is on the tower owner, the tower builder or the wireless carrier, to remove the tower in its entirety and restore the site. So there was recognition even back in 1999. In fact, I think I've heard for many, many years, towers are going to be gone in a year. That hasn't happened yet, but the code looks forward and establishes that requirement to remove a tower if in fact it becomes obsolete. The amendment in front of you now, again, as recommended by the Plan Commission, would designate a portion of the compost center site for a cell tower, the portion outside of the floodway. Nothing can be built within the floodway. The compost center is currently permitted as a site for co-location. AT&T and T-Mobile are both on top of the water tower right now. You see those double arrays. Designating that site as a permitted location for a tower is not a guarantee that we're going to get a tower. Companies need to be willing to invest. As I said before, it's a business decision. That's probably why, Mr. Mayor, we won't get a tower at the beach, even if you wanted one, because as those companies draw their circle, half of the service area for a tower at the beach would be out in the lake. So probably not something they'll invest in. So it's not a guarantee, but it opens a door. It presents an opportunity. It's proactive. It indicates the city's interest and willingness to have the discussion. It's an opportunity to add a third carrier to that location, the compost center. We have heard from Verizon on multiple occasions that they are very interested in locating there. Our water tower is currently at capacity. Structurally, just from a space perspective, the cables are inside that cylinder that goes from the ground up to the tank itself. So there is not an opportunity to add a third carrier on our water tower without compromising what is an essential piece of our city infrastructure. So not only adding a third carrier with a new tower, but as leases come up, or we could negotiate with the existing carriers on the water tower to relocate to a separate tower. And we would achieve enhanced service. Several members spoke to the fact that we would need to do an updated coverage map, which is exactly what would happen. If we add service anywhere, if we improve service anywhere, the coverage maps you saw, which do cover the whole city, the coverage maps done by Mr. Parrish were not just focused on Waukegan and Everett Road, but certainly any enhancements would result in an updated coverage map. The area, the current code identifies the areas in red as permitted locations for either a cell tower or rooftop antennas. And notably, this southwest quadrant of the city has none of those permitted locations. So just to point that out, the site we're looking at in the compost center is that little red dot right there. Again, currently approved for antennas on the water tower. This is just a map. It shows the existing facilities. I know it's difficult to read. This is the compost center site. This is Route 60, the railroad tracks, Town Line Park, preserved open lands, and the hatched area with the diagonal lines, that is floodway. We cannot do any construction in the floodway. So we've aligned the suggested area for consideration for a tower on the portion of the compost center property that is not covered by the floodway. That gives carriers options. We would need to look at ground equipment, all requirements for floodplain, all FCC requirements would need to be met before a tower could locate there. But what we're suggesting you consider tonight is the recommendation from the Plan Commission that would identify this area in the code as a permitted tower location. Again, subject to all the due diligence that would be necessary, and importantly, subject to the interest of a tower builder or wireless carrier in that site. So options for you tonight. On this matter, accept the Plan Commission's recommendation and amend the code to allow a cell tower on the compost center site as depicted on that image that was just on the screen, or reject the Plan Commission's recommendation, the code would remain as it is, or take no action. This matter is currently tabled. I'll look to the city attorney, but I believe the council could choose to simply leave the item tabled.
As long as there wasn't an applicant who would be entitled to due process. If the city's the applicant, then that's correct.
Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Are there questions for Ms. Cerniak?
This
Alderman
is not
Notes.
a question, but just to restate something Director Cerniak already, I think, made clear, but I'm not sure necessarily everyone who spoke earlier understood. This is moving facilities that are already at the compost site. We're not adding a new tower. So there was discussion about moving this, putting this new tower, or creating a new capability. The only new capability is increasing the capacity from 2 providers to 3 if somebody were to move forward.
To clarify, I'm not sure I understood you. This proposal would allow a tower to be located at the compost center site. Right. The tower would, as required in our code right now, would be required to accommodate multiple providers, ideally at least 3. So it would accommodate Verizon, who's expressed interest, and ideally, if I look at public works staff, ideally they would like to eventually see the infrastructure, the wireless infrastructure on the water tower removed. So it would add a tower, it would add a provider.
But my point being that there already is a cell tower cell facility is being provided at the compost site. It's being done through the water tower.
Correct.
I'm not sure that was necessarily understood by some of the people who spoke.
Correct. There are antennas there now, multiple antenna arrays and ground equipment.
I just wanted to make that clear for our viewing audience. Thank you, Kathy.
Yes. I think the ideal situation would in fact be to remove those from the water tower, have them all located on a single tower. But the coverage, although better because you add a carrier, the coverage wouldn't necessarily be better unless the new equipment was updated equipment that provided greater coverage.
And we see antennas changed out all the time, and certainly if an existing provider relocated, I would anticipate they would put the most up-to-date antennas, and I don't know what height. I believe the current water tower is 60 feet. I'm not seeing any heads nod back there.
Mr. Thomas, water tower height, please.
60 feet, I believe. Nope.
160.
Or height, 160 with the hash, it's 162.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there other questions for Ms. Cerniak? Okay, thank you. And at this time, we would like to offer public comment. So if there's anybody that would like to comment on this particular proposal, please feel free to come to the dais, state your name, address, and any applicable expertise.
Hi, Haley Cropper, again, 1035 Sir William Lane. I was just a little confused by Alderman Notes' comment. So they will be adding a carrier that is not already at the water tower. So therefore, coverage would improve. It will be different. And as Kathy stated, that it will improve, the coverage maps will change. So I was a little unsure. We were kind of in the back, not quite sure if that was, it sounded like you were saying it was not going to change.
No, I think that the issue really here is that we're essentially allowing construction of a tower in the same site as the existing facilities that can only handle 2 providers. Correct. New tower could theoretically handle 3, so that would improve coverage if you had the one who isn't there. And if they put in new equipment, you might even get a broader coverage that would change the map. So it's entirely true that if this new tower to be built at the compost center were to occur, that it may improve the coverage map and in ways that we may not even know until we study it. And as Ms. Cerniak stated, once this occurs, we will restudy and see what changes and what it means for any future plans.
Okay, thank you very much. That's, I guess, why my confusion was from the previous passing of the plan by Mr. Parrish, because like, as stated, things will be changing. So thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Are there others that would like to address the council on this particular issue?
Antoinette Hulata, 740 Jennifer Court. Just something to add to what Haley was saying. Currently, the water tower is 160 feet, and there are carriers on the top. I believe it's AT&T. They have not changed out their equipment. I believe Kathy said for a couple of years. Is that correct? So if we had a tower and they were to relocate, I think the cell service would definitely improve. The only other wireless facility or wireless provider that's on the water tower is T-Mobile, and I think it's underneath on the base. So it's only about 80 feet, which is below tree coverage, which is actually very poor it's not very ideal. So T-Mobile would absolutely improve, and Verizon is not currently located there. And currently the compost center is only zoned for antennas and not a freestanding tower. So I think that's important as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others that would like to comment? Okay, then we will close public comment on this matter. And at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to waive first reading and grant final approval of an ordinance amending section 159.154, personal wireless service facilities overlay district of the city code to designate a portion of the city's compost center at 1381 Kennedy Road as a permitted location for a cell tower or monopole, antennas, and related ground equipment. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? This will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Powers.
Aye.
Alderman Levert.
Due to my employment, I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walder.
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
6 yeas, 1 abstention. Motion carries.
Very good, thank you. Now, I would like to create the offer for those who are here really just for discussion of cell towers to leave if you choose. We'd love to have you stay and listen to the remainder of the exciting issues we're discussing, but feel free to take this opportunity. We will come back to our business. The next item is new business, and this will be consideration of a business disruption grant program for businesses impacted by the Deer Path Streetscape and Bank Lane projects. This will be presented by Carrie Cope, Assistant to the City Manager.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, we're asking you to consider approving a business disruption grant program to support our businesses who have been most impacted by the Deer Path Streetscape projects and the Bank Lane enhancement projects. By the time we finish these construction projects, we will have experienced street closures of almost 1 year, and that has impacted our vehicular and our pedestrian traffic to the area. We've heard from our business community that they are struggling to maintain their revenues, and so at the direction of the mayor, we formed a multi-departmental working group consisting of community development, the finance department, and the city manager's office to come up with some program options and formulate a recommendation for you tonight. We began our research by looking at what other municipalities have done during similar streetscape projects. Of the 9 communities who responded to our survey, who had streetscape projects, only 4 indicated that they had offered non-monetary assistance to the businesses to include parking accommodations, end of the construction celebrations, advertising, and ribbon cutting ceremonies. One community, Glen Ellen, was the only one to offer direct financial assistance to the businesses. Their construction grant program permitted the village to award one-time grants to businesses during the project, only for businesses who were in the project area. In order to be eligible for the Glen Ellen program, businesses had to show a revenue loss of at least 20% to be eligible, and businesses that could demonstrate a loss of 20 to 29.9% would receive a flat $4,500 grant from the village. Businesses who were able to demonstrate a loss of 30% or more received a flat one-time $6,000 grant. We also looked at our own business grant history here in Lake Forest. In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the city offered grants to our sales tax generating businesses with a maximum grant of 0.25% of sales tax generated on calendar year 2019 sales. That program had a cap of $12,500 per business. When we reviewed that program, we learned that we only paid out approximately $25,000 total to the businesses, and that was due to receiving only a limited number of applications. We also wanted to consider that the Deer Path Streetscape and Bank Lane projects are rather unique. And so while we as a city consistently invest in capital improvement projects, some of these could have future impacts on businesses. But because of that, we wanted to be careful not to set a precedent that the city would have grant programs for every capital improvement project we do. What sets the Deer Path Streetscape project apart is the sheer duration of the street closures being over 8 months long and directly impacting customers' ability to access these businesses, the restaurants and retailers. And those businesses rely on that customer traffic to generate their revenue. Additionally, we currently estimate that the project budgeted savings will be enough to cover the business disruption grant that we're recommending. And that doesn't happen in every capital improvement project we have, but this specific scenario allows us to consider using a portion of that savings to provide limited assistance to our businesses. And so based on everything I've outlined, our working group built a business disruption grant program as follows. We recommend that the total program budget be $250,000. Capping the program at this level ensures that we continue to have a cushion for any unforeseen expenses related to the actual project. In order for a business to be eligible, they must have street frontage or primary access on Deer Path or Bank Lane within the project area, which is defined as the portions of the street that are closed to traffic. They also must be reporting sales tax to the Lake Forest Location Code, and only taxable sales that are generated and reported to the Lake Forest Location Code are eligible for the grant. We estimate that approximately 22 businesses would be eligible for this program. Grant awards would be awarded as follows. The maximum grant amount would be 50% of the sales revenue lost between January 1st and October 31st, 2025, as compared to the same period in 2024. Grants would be capped at $11,650 per business. If a business opened after January 1st, 2025, their maximum grant amount would be the greater of 50% of sales or $5,000. And businesses could submit requests for payments on a monthly or less frequent basis until they reach that maximum grant amount. We would accept their payment request forms through December 31st, 2025, at which time the program would cease. And so with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have as part of your discussion about our recommendation.
Sure, and before we get into comments by the alderman or questions, I would like to say to the business owners that we really are very sensitive to the situation that we've put you in. This is a once-in-a-generation project that will ultimately greatly enhance the location of your businesses, but we realize that we are creating suffering for businesses in the area, and we know that we can't sort of make you whole, but we'd like to do what we reasonably can to keep you in place until things are better. With that being said, are there questions for Ms. Kaup? Alderman Weber.
Thank you so much. I first wanted to just make a comment as someone who has worked at a downtown Lake Forest business for over 20 years, that I sympathize with the business owners that have the street closure for the extended period of time. Working in a retail business, you rely often on walking traffic. And while Lake Forest is unique in that during the months of January through April, despite weather challenges, walk-in traffic is minimal anyway because a significant portion of our residents leave the Lake Forest area. But I want to thank the city staff and mayor for your direction in establishing this creative solution to help and support the businesses that are most greatly impacted. And I think that the points that you've highlighted, the businesses that can be eligible, are good ones. And so I just wanted to share my support and thanks and gratitude for the creative thinking.
Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments?
I would fully support. I think it's wonderful that we're trying to help out where we can. I also encourage all our residents to please take the opportunity to make sure to shop local and patronize those businesses that are affected so that you can lend your own direct support to helping them get through this time.
Other questions or comments? Okay, so at this time, I will also ask if there's anyone in the public that would like to address the council on this matter.
I'm Prue Beidler. I live at 20 Stonegate in Lake Forest. I was an alderman when we began planning for the Deer Path streetscape. This was always a concern. We did not discuss this kind of remedy, and I think it's an extraordinarily good idea. I couldn't be more in favor of it, and just we're going to be modeling something in the, I think it was only one other city, Glen Ellen, out of maybe 10 that was doing anything like this. We belong at the top of that list, and that's where we're going to be. I think it's extraordinary. One more thing. If you haven't tried the Cobb salad made fresh at Lake Forest Food and Wine, it's worth the slight complications in getting in. I can't recommend it enough.
Thank you. Are there others that would like to address the council? Please come forward.
I'm Joanna Rolick with the Chamber of Commerce here, Lake Forest and Lake Bluff. And I actually have three things to mention. One is I know that there were a couple of other business representatives who were here this evening that couldn't stay the whole time, so they texted to let me know that they couldn't. But I wanted to tell you, first of all, commend the city on the communications with the business community in keeping everybody apprised of what is happening. There isn't enough opportunity for discussion and for communication. It's very difficult because these are people that are trying to keep their businesses alive. What they're missing right now is the spontaneous traffic. I mean, to Alderman Luby's point, it's the spontaneous traffic is not there because you don't have people just walking by through this. So that's a difficulty, but I did want to compliment the city. The second thing, to Alderman Notes' point, eat, shop, and dine locally, despite having to hassle with a little dust right now, because those businesses need that support. This is a very long period of time that they do not have full access for their clients and their patrons. So that's so important. And in fact, the summer sales celebration that we're doing this year is not called a sidewalk sale. It's called Summer Sales Celebration, so that there are businesses that can offer specials that might be virtual, might be not necessarily related to having something out in the street for obvious reasons. And the third thing, and this is kind of an important point, the history of this, the COVID grants, and the fact that not all of the eligible businesses applied for it, meant that there was revenue that was left after the period of time that they could apply. My question is, and perhaps you've already discussed this, but in the event that the businesses that are eligible, the 22 businesses, apply, and there is not, they haven't taken advantage of the full amount of the $250,000, can the remaining revenue be allocated on a proportional basis to those that did apply so that they can actually get a little more support? Because I know one business in particular that the revenue loss this year is going to be in excess of, well, what they stand to make is in excess of $200,000, but they have no ingress or egress from the standpoint of being able to bring their product in and out of their location. They have no back door. That's just one of the issues that a single business is having right now, and this is just very difficult for them. So thank you very much for listening to that.
And thank you. Are there others that would like to address the council on this matter? Okay, then we will close public comment, and before we get to asking for a motion, I would also like to say this. The city is a part of the equation, but in my own view, the property owners are also part of the equation. And I would simply like to publicly say to the landlords who lease to these tenants, please give strong consideration to temporary rent abatements to these businesses. I think that would go a long way toward getting us to the end of this, and I believe that the property owners will benefit greatly from the enhancements to their property. And so please give some consideration to that. It's just a public request. All right, at this time I'd like to ask for a motion to approve consideration of a business disruption grant program for businesses impacted by the Deer Path Streetscape and Bank Lane project.
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Bothfeld.
Aye.
Alderman Weber.
Aye.
Alderman Walter.
Aye.
Alderman Clemmons.
Aye.
Alderman Notes.
Aye.
Powers.
Aye.
Alderman LeVert.
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good, thank you. At this time, we'll move on to additional items for discussion or comments by council members. Are there any comments that the council members would like to make at this time? Okay, hearing none, I will move to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.